Hey guys, welcome back to the Can I Ask You a Question podcast. Here on the podcast, we are exploring questions and unlocking wisdom through solo episodes with myself and deep dive interviews with the most interesting people in my world. If you are new to the show, welcome. And if you've been listening for a while, welcome back. So glad to have you. Last week's episode was sure fun. It was kind of a different one, bro talk with my friend Jeremiah. I hope you liked that. You can go back and check it out. Kind of a different format. And today we're back to kind of our normal format and like to kind of change things up and have a little bit of fun. The question we're going to be asking today, and that's kind of really the theme of the show for those that are new, is that questions unlock wisdom. Questions, lead to answers if we fall down far enough. And our question today is this: how do I honor the past but still innovate for the future? How do I honor the past but still innovate for the future? This is not a problem that someone creating a totally new industry has to grapple with. But for any of us with a pre-existing relationship or organization, a legacy to honor or to protect, or cultural or familial expectations to meet, knowing how to honor the past but at the same time to still innovate for the future is a very relevant and important question to answer. And it's probably one that you've grappled with, whether or not you phrased it quite that way or not. To make things even clearer, let me share a story with you, a parable of sorts. Imagine for a moment this scene. You rush into a hospital with a dire health emergency. As you enter the lobby, your first surprise is to see candles burning in the chandeliers and on the sconces along the wall. You think to yourself, this is strange. But maybe it's some type of new health trend. You're reassured by the welcoming smile of the nurse at the desk in front of you. But then you notice she's not wearing normal scrubs. She looks more like a nun from the 1800s with a funny looking hat on her head. Before you can rethink your decision, she kindly asks, "Welcome to such and such hospital. We're the hospital of a very important doctor, Dr. So-and-so, who has made very important medical discoveries. How can I help you?" You relax a little bit. You're reassured by the pride that you can tell she feels in her institution, and you tell her what's the problem. She quickly and efficiently ushers you back to a medical room, and before you know it, an old-fashioned doctor greets you by saying, "Well, the leeches will be here any minute. We'll start with a good bloodletting and take it from there." Before you can reply, you see someone being pushed down the hallway in an iron lung, and finally curiosity and a bit of self-preservation kick in, and you insist on a few answers about this confident yet seemingly archaic hospital. You learn that Dr. So-and-so died over 100 years ago, but his methods were so successful that the staff here have treated them as sacred. Everything as it was, and why not, they confidently tell you. He was the most innovative medical practitioner of his time. Dr. So-and-so challenged the norms of his day, paved new paths, and produced amazing and innovative results. You try to ask them why they've chosen to honor him by ceasing all innovation and thereby acting in a way entirely contrary to his way of doing things. But you can tell they've heard it all before. Resigned to your fate, you say, "Okay, it looks like the leeches are here." Hopefully you enjoyed that story, and that illustration was hopefully apparent, but we'll kind of break it down a little bit. The idea that bright, well-intentioned people would turn a vibrant life or a way of thinking into a dull and out-of-date memorial, it seems absurd, it seems crazy, and yet it's exactly what has happened countless times with all sorts of people and institutions. There are families still doing things exactly like Grandma did, even though she's been gone for 30 years and times have changed. There are businesses that still try to use the same tired strategies that once worked so successfully. Why is our phone book advertising not working anymore? There are religious or educational institutions that hold on to the past so hard that they no longer reflect the vibrancy and the innovation of their early days. The thing is, the people at Dr. So-and-so's hospital had good intentions. It's an imaginary story, but we're going to say they had good intentions. But if they are true to real people, they probably also had a bit of complacency in the comfort of the familiar. This is how we've always done things, as well as fear about stepping out into the unknown. And you know what? If you begin to look for them, I believe you're going to see people, places, and organizations that look an awful lot like Dr. So-and-so's hospital. Can you possibly recognize this way of thinking in your family, your workplace, your church, or your team? Can you potentially recognize this type of holding on to the past in yourself? And that leads us back to the question that we're going to explore. If we don't want this, if we don't want to be stuck and be like Dr. So-and-so's hospital, then we ask the question, how do we honor the past, but still innovate for the future? And that is what we're going to explore in today's podcast conversation. Let's dive in and find out. And with that, I'm going to take a quick drink of my Earl Grey tea, keep the vocal cords flowing, and we're going to jump in. Okay. Point number one in this question, how do I honor the past but still innovate for the future? It's going to take respect for the past. Point number one, it takes respect for the past. Perhaps this is a simple point, but in order to honor something, even while making sure we don't get stuck, you have to actually respect it. If you're asking the question, how do I honor the past but still move forward and innovate? It's probably because you have some things you'd like to change. That's great. But before you get to it, here's my encouragement. Try and stop to appreciate what's been. The thing is, we live in a culture that has the misguided belief that history is one straight line of upward progress. When in reality, many times through history, we've left good plans for bad ones. And innovation has been the work of rediscovering those left behind truths and practices. From this place of honor and respect, you can then begin to renovate and innovate with a much higher chance of doing more good than harm. You know, when I think of this kind of respectful renovation or innovation, this respect for the past, but this, as we're going to talk about, vision for the future, I think of those, HGTV or TLC or Magnolia remodeling shows, where many of those designers, they're visionaries and they have ideas and they want it to make things fresh and new. But they also come with a respect for what's been. And many times you'll see, the aha moment is actually to pull away past innovations, past things, past gimmicky, wallpaper or gimmicky, flooring, fake flooring, and getting back to the originals. And it's this process of new and old, and it starts with this respect for the craft, this respect for whatever that thing you're working on, respect for the family's values, respect for the church you're a part of, respect for the business, respect for what's gone before, while still having a mind for what's ahead. And so that's number one is, if we're going to honor the past but still innovate for the future, is we've got to start with the honor, and we need to respect the past. But if we're going to move to the future and to embrace this process, the next thing we have to do is it's going to take an open mind. Point number two is it takes an open mind. For many of you listening, it may feel like sacrilege to say that everything you, your organization, your team, or your family are doing isn't sacred. You just want to protect all of it. After all, you say, the hard work you put into it, how could we just throw that away? After God spoke to you, or perhaps your leader, after all the positive results that have come because you've done it the way you've done it. The thought of change seems not only scary, but wrong. And I want to say right off, as I kind of mentioned above, the new isn't always better. And often, the old really is the best. Going back, we're seeking to do a lot in health, and a lot of the stuff we're looking at, the person that's kind of training us via the books and things, talk about ancient nutrition, talks about things that, doing it the way that we've done it for thousands of years. Many times the old school is great. And so that is true. And the fact is also that some of us just have a soft spot for the old, the vintage, the classic. That's great. Breathe easy. I'm not coming for anybody's vinyl records. I'm not coming for your leather jacket or your hymns. Just sung a hymn today. They're beautiful. There truly is much beauty in the carrying on of tradition and the honor of the past. But sometimes not embracing the new can be dangerous. Just imagine that at Dr. So-and-so's hospital, they failed to properly wash their hands due to a lack of knowledge about germs, or they failed to detect a serious problem because they wouldn't allow the use of an ultrasound or an x-ray. There are moments when, man, we really do have to innovate. We really do have to step out of our comfort zone. So with this hopefully reassuring disclaimer, I'm warning you now. I'm challenging you to open your mind to the possibility of change. Well, prove to me why I have to change. We're not there yet. I'm just asking you, those who are holding on tight, this is scary for you. Open your mind to the possibility of change. And just rest assured, I'm not coming after the truly sacred, which would be utter foolishness. And we'll kind of break that down later. For others of you, the new is almost always preferred, and the more change, the better. You're the polar opposite. And so when I say have an open mind, you're like, it's never been closed. And you like change, and you like the new, and you like the novel. For the change is great personality. You want to remodel grandma's house and get that new flat screen TV inside for movie night, but you can be too quick or cavalier with the fine china, which needs to be preserved. This leads me to say that both sides need to recognize that the best answer might be all old or all new, but more likely it'll be a combination of the two. This isn't just me being polite and saying, hey, let's split the difference. It's a statement of what I've seen and observed to actually make the best result. Is often this fusion of the old and the new. In preparing for this, I thought about the fashion industry. They come to mind. The fashion industry, it's known as an industry that requires constant innovation. And at the same time, it often incorporates elements of craft and design from the past. They're constantly innovating and doing new and novel, but at the same time returning back to old trends and throwbacks and styles and what do they call them, hemlines or frames and structures. And it's this fusion that creates much of the fashion industry, this fusion of the old and the new. This is true of most crafts. Without an open mind, the preserver of the past, that's that one personality that's super scared about this, that does not want to open their mind, they'll discount the innovator of the present, and vice versa. The innovator of the present will discount the preserver of the past as archaic and old and closed-minded. But with an open mind, the two of those people, the two personalities, can truly have the best of both worlds. And so when we ask the question, how do we honor the past but still innovate in the future? The second thing it's going to take an open mind. Number 3, it takes a discerning eye. It's going to take a discerning eye to honor the past but innovate for the future. It takes a posture of respect and an open mind to even be willing to look at what has been and what might be. We've discussed that. And going on, it takes a discerning eye to actually discern which is which and how best to combine the past with the present, the old with the new, to separate them, to see them differently, and then to pick the best. This was the kind of aha moment that was what I really wanted to share with you on this episode, and then we fleshed it out and built it. But it's been super helpful. This model for me is this. The best way I know to discern between the two is to separate the form of a thing from its function. And I want to break down what I mean by form and function. And this is a model we're going to then use through the rest of our episode today. When I say form versus function, or form and function, this is what I mean. I mean that form is temporary. And I mean, when I refer to function, I mean that function is timeless. Form is temporary. Function is timeless. Form represents that which is open for negotiation and innovation. At its most extreme, function represents sacred, unchanging, deeply held values, including those handed down from Scripture. Not just values infers to some degree, almost like you could take it or leave it, but believed truths, like realities as best we can tell from Scripture, from God, from the universe, and how we, as we observe that in natural sciences, these are unchanging functions. With less sacred matters, function might just be your version of Colonel Sanders' secret spice recipe. Have you ever heard about the KFC's famous, secret recipe? KFC has, I think it's thousands and thousands of locations. I know where we live, my wife and I comment, man, the KFC is always busy, and we think we should go check it out sometime. It wouldn't actually be sacrilege to change that recipe, but it's probably not a good idea. There are things in your business, in your family, in your church that you could call them form. They are, there's no sin in stopping it or starting it or changing it, but it's what's led to your success, and so you want to be slow to do it. For our purposes, we're going to lump all function in as essentially not to be changed, but with the clarification that while sacred function, like God's word, is never changed, less sacred function can be, but it should be with great care. Put simply, we don't change function, but we do change form. We don't change the function or the core essentials of a thing, but we do change and innovate and play with and get flexible with and be relevant with the form. Number 4, if we're going to honor the past but still innovate for the future, it's this. It takes clear vision for the future. It's going to take clear vision for the future. It's hard to pack for a trip if you don't know where you are going. Should you prepare for cold weather or bring out that swimsuit? Should you bring sunscreen or a scarf? The same is true when you're deciding what to bring from the best of the past and the present. To discover this, you can ask yourself, here's some ideas to kind of discover this a little bit and to get clear. You can ask yourself a past-focused question like, what one action or way of thinking has most to do with our past success as a business? What one action or way of thinking has the most to do, we give the most credit to this for our past success as a business would be an example. This is probably not a thing that should be changed unless you want drastically different results. If you say it's been great at helping us be a business of $1 million a year, but we want to be a business of $100 million a year, you may need to change it. But if you're like, we are very happy at $1 million, or we're very happy at 10 million, and we just want to keep that at the very least, then you're going to be really careful to change that thing. It's probably under that kind of less sacred but function element instead of form. You can ask a question like this. What one action or way of thinking is most to do with my past success as a person or as a family? And that same type of thing. I know for Allie and I, when we learned the concept and the principle of the Sabbath, this idea that you should work 6 days and really rest and release and relax on the 7th day and begin again, it took us from having kind of just a mono life where just every day bleeds into the next, this monolith, and instead there was a beginning and end of every week. There was something to look forward to, and now our daughter's a part of that, and we celebrate it, and she looks forward to that day. That's become something that has led in our personal family, on a personal side, to so much of our success. So it's not something we're likely to change. It becomes more of a core function, though the form has changed over the years, especially once we became parents. You could ask a question like this. What past action or thought has most to do with my greatest failure or regret? This might be the start of your greatest innovation. If you recognize an area that, man, we behaved this way or we did this thing, it's led to some of our greatest regrets, led to some of our greatest failure. Let me grab a little more tea. Once again, let's dig where the taters are. That's probably a great place to look and to question and to go, maybe we can reverse engineer our failure to find our success. So there's some past focused questions you can ask to kind of discern the best of the past and what you're going to want to take with you into the future and to clarify your vision. You can also ask yourself future focused questions like, and we did an episode on this, I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago, this question, what do I really want? And I break that down, and you end up advocating for you to have a clear, personal, and passionate mission that needs to be clear, needs to be personal, and needs to be something that excites you and is passionate. This is basically asking that question about your organization. Where do we really want to be as an organization in 5 years? And once you answer that, it's going to bring a lot of clarity for your vision. Once again, if past form or function will still work for you to get you there, then use it. Otherwise, you're going to have to take up form, take up function, to review it, and to find innovation so you can land at a new result. You could ask the question, what do we really want our family to be like in 5 years? Same thing. And then a key one, especially while we need innovation, while we need to have kind of this idea of function and form and be able to change form, we can ask the question, how has the world changed since our old way of doing things was first introduced? And this is one of the biggest reasons we need to change form. Is that something? It's when we're saying we need to change. I think we're a lot of times whenever someone's defensive, we're talking to someone and they're defensive, or we're defensive. We're saying like, this was a great idea. Now you're saying it's not a great idea, and the answer is essentially, I'm not saying your idea isn't great. In fact, in many cases, it was great. You didn't change, or your idea didn't cease to be a great idea, but the times around it changed, the world changed, and now what made so much sense doesn't make sense anymore. It was a great idea for the time, but the fact that it's not working to some degree probably shows that it was more form than function, or at least that the form has to be updated. Once you have your answers, you'll have a clear vision of what to bring from the past into your future and what to leave behind. And that was kind of that analogy, if that was not clear, about packing. Is when you're discerning and you're doing it, you're going to need a clear vision. You're going to what to pick and how to discern between form and function and what to bring forward. But to know what to bring forward, it is dependent on where you want to go and dependent on that clear vision. Otherwise, and without it, you're kind of left muddling. Real quick, just want to ask you, would you, wherever you're watching or listening, subscribe to the show, rate it, review it? I would love to hear your feedback, see what you're loving, see what you're not loving, be honest with it, but give it 5 stars. No, give it the rating that you feel is fair, but do love those. And it helps the show be seen and let others know the value of it. And be a great honor if you would also tell a friend about it if you're really enjoying it. And particularly if this is your 3rd or 4th episode, man, you're liking it. Tell a friend about it. Bring them into the party. It's benefits all of us. You get to chat with them about it. And as this pie grows, this influence grows on the show, then I just expect really cool things for all of us in the form of who we can kind of bring on and interview and just the opportunities we can have. And so that'd be a great honor if you would rate, review it, subscribe, let other people know about it. I think I answered all of that. And with that, let's go to number 5. How do I honor the past but still innovate for the future? Well, one of the things is it takes clear communication. The good thing with a tradition, if it's a good one, is that it has lots of baked in virtue and best practices. A good tradition has a lot of stuff baked into it, but it can also be a problem because many times even those practicing the tradition don't even know the air quotes here, why behind all the air quotes, what they're doing. They're doing it, but they don't even know why. They're doing the what. They don't actually realize all the virtue that's packed in. Just by example, Allie and I have been diving into nutrition, and it's quite the task to build out an eating plan that ensures you're getting all the various vitamins and minerals and enzymes and probiotics and fiber and phytonutrients and whatever else that our body needs to thrive, whatever else I learn on a podcast in the next week and add that to my list. And it was a great surprise and a good surprise when I learned just how much of those vital nutrients existed inside our almost daily breakfast of scrambled eggs. And in theory, we'd still reap the benefits of those nutrients inside our morning eggs, our morning breakfast, whether we knew they existed or not. But Imagine we decided to swap out our eggs for a protein shake, for example, in changing the form of our breakfast. Even supposing the calorie intake was the same and the protein was similar, without knowing it, we could easily lose valuable function, all the nutrients we were getting through the old form of our daily breakfast of scrambled eggs, right? And so, just if you're not kind of aware on that, protein shake, and this is my learning in my journey, I go, okay, both have maybe this much protein, cool. Both are this many calories, cool. But in some protein shakes, probably has a lot of great stuff. But if it's not maybe packed with it, or it's not coming from the right source, then it'd be all you're getting. And you think that it's a straight trade, and because you don't understand really, and you had not really discerned the function from the form and what was going on in your traditions, you end up making a swap that actually isn't serving you well. Innovation is good. Let's say this a different way. And innovation is good. Change can be a welcome and healthy part of life. And I think that a periodic refresh is really wise. I think that'll be a whole other episode. But it will take really knowing where the vital elements are coming from, function, and what can be changed and updated form, right? So if we're going to do it, if we're going to innovate, we really got to be able to know where the vital elements are coming from. That's the function. And what can be changed and updated and innovated on, had fun with the form. Not only will you need to know which is which, but anyone you are teaming up with, a spouse, a business partner, a team at work, will need to know which is which. And you'll need to communicate/coordinate together to make sure your menu change is really a move forward and not sideways or backwards. And that's right at this point of it takes clear communication. You got to be able to have the vision, you got to be able to discernment, but then you have to know it well enough that as you're talking to your team, and as even you're arguing out where should we go, what should we do, as you're talking with the spouse, hey, I want to make some life changes, to make sure that it's not just a sideways move, but that you actually are walking backwards thinking you're benefiting. You're going to have a great awareness of what's really on, the real awareness of form and function, but then the ability to communicate, coordinate that together. And once again, I just find this a fascinating thing. Sometimes it takes me days, weeks, maybe even months to even realize what it is essential to me. In a negotiation, in a conversation with someone, maybe I'll be having an argument with a friend or a spouse. You're like, what am I really mad about? What is it that I'm really wanting? What are they really wanting? And as you begin to understand it, then you could begin to be able to offer better solutions and say, hey, if this is what's really the core function to you, if this is what's essential, if this is what you can't live without, and here's an option that still satisfies that, but it also is a form that works for me. What would you say about that? And suddenly it opens up all kinds of doors for communication, for coordination, and for negotiation towards a win-win scenario. How do I honor the past and still innovate for the future? 6, it's going to take courage. It takes courage. You can choose to play it safe and never change form. And this is actually our final one of today. You can never risk undermining your current function in pursuit of something more. But even if the core function of what you're doing is excellent, the odds are that the rust of accumulated years with no refining innovation is likely to grow to such a degree that you'll see the effectiveness of your function diminish. You'll wonder why everyone's choosing to buy the other guy's product when you know yours is better. You'll complain that no one in your community cares enough to join your nonprofit or your church, all while paradoxically scratching your head at those nonprofits and those churches who are full of passionate members. You'll mourn the slow loss of your children's hearts because kids these days just don't like to sit down for 3 hours and ... Until suddenly you have all but sacrificed the true functionality or effectiveness of your true function because you neglected or refused to attend to the need to update its form, right? You want to keep the inside, but you failed to update the outside and the external and the form to be relevant to today's needs, today's opportunities, and those around you. But it doesn't have to be this way. You can come from a place of respect and have an open mind. You can have a discerning eye and a clear vision for the future. You can have a clear communication among those who need to be in the know. And you can take courage and put all your chips on the table. It is terrifying to have certain conversations or even entertain certain possibilities. But without this willingness to at least question what we think is function and an outright willingness to change what we know is form, I suspect that fortune will favor the bold. But unless we choose courage, it won't be us. Take heart. In the universal game of poker, truth can never be fully won by the bad guys. Truth is truth, and it's eternal, and it's held by God. It emanates from him. He is the source of truth. Yes, it takes courage to frequently put up form for review, and on occasion function as well. Just make sure, and you put up the function there, just make sure that you're as right as you think you are. But the results of this courage are tremendous, and they don't come any other way. Your theological and relational and financial and spiritual breakthrough is on the other side of courage. We don't know it all, and we never will on this side of eternity, but we can explore and learn more. We can do things better in form and function. We can effectively practice eternal truth in an ever-changing world, but it will take courage. That's number 6. It will take courage. It takes courage. Guys, we're about to wrap up. I just want to leave you with questions and ask you, which of these do you need to kind of level up in order to honor the past, but move forward and innovate in the future? Do you need to gain a respect for the past? Are you just so unappreciative and thinking that all the best answers are here and now? You may need to gain respect for the past so you do more good than harm. Do you need to open your mind to the possibility of change? Do you need to just take the first step, not agreeing that something has to change, but that it might, and that there are situations when change is necessary? Do you need to ask God to help you discern between form and function? This is something that I don't think always comes intuitive. This is something we have to learn and develop and trial and error and ask God for wisdom and insight and discernment so we can really see the form versus the function. Do you need to clarify your vision for the future so that you know of the form and function which to bring and which to leave behind? Do you need to clarify your communication with those closest to you in the mission so that you don't leave them behind, so that you can actually convince them and help them see that the changes and the innovation are not attacking the past, but are honoring it, but moving it forward so that the heart of it can live just the way I think Dr. So-and-so would have wanted his hospital to function, to honor to change the form, but honor the spirit of his life, the imaginary life of innovation and creativity. Do you need to take courage to put all your chips on the table and review your form and your function in pursuit of what's on the other side of courage? Is it one of these? Is it all of these? Once again, guys, just want to remind you to rate, review the podcast wherever you're watching or listening. Share it with a friend. And I will see you next week. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful day.